make a big noise playing in the street. Gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face. You big.
You want to make sure to wait before you enter your room, because if you're not going first in the room, the judge is probably still writing comments on the other person's ballot. So you just want to wait, give them time. Don't make it awkward just staring at them when they're writing. When you walk in, you want to make sure you have a brief greeting, like, hello, how are you, how's your day going? But don't be like starting a conversation, because that's taking time out of other people's performance times, and you're not there to be friends with the judge. If you're sick, don't say you're sick, don't apologize, because don't answer unless they ask you. Don't be rude to the judge. I mean, they're there to judge you on like how you're acting, so don't be rude and mean. If they ask you questions, answer them. Don't be just blocking them out. Before you start performing, ask if they're ready. Just make sure that they're looking at you and they're ready. An important thing to remember is that the judge is always right. Don't be telling them what to do. Go out, talk to your judge or your coach about that. If they're using their phone as a timer and they're timing you and they're not supposed to, just don't say anything, go and tell your coach, and the coach will bring it up. And the last thing you need to do is, after you get done performing and before you leave the room, you want to make sure to thank the judge, because they are there volunteering. They're there for their own free time. This is what they wanted to do. So don't just be rude and just leave.
You need to be mature. You shouldn't be playing ninja in the hallways, no singing out loud. The card games are fine. You can play card games whenever you want, with other teams, with your team. Just make sure that you stay with your team occasionally, you check in occasionally, because it is your team. You're not a part of the other teams, you're for your team. We're more professional than most of the other schools, because Mrs. Inniking will rip our heads off if we don't. And you don't want that, trust me.
We are better than the other teams act like it.
For nothing. If you're going to be clapping, at least clap for one of your friends who got placed into finals or semifinals at champs. And award acceptance behavior. You need to be positive, okay? You made it this far, you're going to get at least 6th. So you need to be happy with what you get, because there's always room for improvement. Even if you get first, there's always more comments. Hopefully, if the judges leave comments, of course. But there's always more comments to help you improve your piece.
We will rock you. We will rock you.
Finals behavior. Usually, in finals, you're not the one to write on your ballots. The judges are. So, what you need to do is write your name, code, title of your piece, and the author of your piece on a board behind you or somewhere around you. Also, make sure that you write neatly and ask your judges if your writing is legible. Also, if someone has written on the board before you, then you need to make sure that the judges are done with the writing before you erase it. Also, be courteous and genuine with your judges, but don't initiate conversations. Yes, you should answer questions like, how's your day going, or I hope you do well, but do not talk just to talk. Also, finals are different from prelims, so you need to be more serious and professional.
We will rock you.
Dressing for forensics competition. Now, suit jackets for our team are very preferred. We will show you an outfit from the waist up that is very acceptable. She makes it her own by the show of color and the necklace and the pretty hair, but it's very formal because of her jacket. Thank you, Isabel. Now, for shoes. Heels can make you feel great, and they can add a lot to you feeling like your character if your character fits that way. But there's also, you don't know this school, so you're going to be walking around all day. You may go the wrong direction and have to walk all the way back. There's just a lot of walking that you wouldn't expect. So if you can't walk in heels, don't wear them. Or what I do is I bring a pair of sandals, and I wear those pretty much all the time except for when I'm about to walk in the room, because then you can change into your heels. But you have to be able to perform in your heels if you move around a lot in your piece, or if you're an IDA, then think twice about wearing them, because you're going to be moving a lot and you don't want to trip and fall, which I have done. Glasses. especially when you're doing things that move around a lot, you can get hot and sweaty, and some like schools are very hot, and sometimes when you get really hot and sweaty, your glasses can fog up like they tend to do. So if you are hot and if you think your glasses are going to fog up, just take them off and perform without them. Or if your glasses aren't very tight to your head like these ones are, then take them off. Or I have a separate pair of glasses that I bought just for forensics that I only wear during forensics meets so that they are really tight to my head and so that they won't fall off. Also, if you do a piece where you maybe get slapped, I would not wear your glasses at all, because there is a very good chance that your partner either accidentally actually slaps you and they fall off, or you just move your head too fast and they come flying off. That may add effect, but it might break your glasses. Like that. Also, beware of this, because you may be very deep into your piece, even if you're in prose or poetry especially, and you're just really trying to push your best, but they can't see your face. So pull your hair back and make sure you look professional. Makeup. Now, makeup, especially for someone who is red-skinned, is very important because you don't want to take away from your performance by turning into a tomato. And also, there has been judges who have commented on other people saying that they need to wear makeup because it adds some definition to your eyes if you're a girl, and that's your choice. You can or you can't, but sometimes a little eyeliner helps, just a little bit. But you don't want to go too dark with it because then it's distracting. Same goes with lipstick. You don't want to have really drying lipstick because then after you've been wearing it all throughout the competition, you get what is called butthole mouth, and it's very distracting because you're talking, and while you're talking, you can see the dried parts of your lipstick either like chipping off or just looking really dry, and it looks really gross. Yeah. Oh, you also don't want to wear like really thick layers because then you get sweaty and then it just like cakes up and you look gross, and we don't want you to look gross. So, skirts and dresses. Skirts and dresses are okay for certain events, like prose and poetry where you don't move, or even in a serious if you don't move or you don't like spread your legs. And speeches are fine with the skirts. But just be aware that if you do want to wear a skirt or a dress while you're performing and you sit, keep your knees together or your legs crossed if you can, or your ankles together. And even if you are doing prose, poetry, or speeches and you wear a dress, make sure that it is knee length, because if it's not, you could still have some slippage as you're walking away from the judge or walking to the judge, and we do not want that. So make sure skirts and dresses are knee length. Slippage. Oh, the same goes with some slippage up at the top. If you are a woman, then you have breasticles and you have cleavage, and you do not want your female or male judge distracted by them flopping all over the place. So, for one, wear a bra. Even if you don't have very much, wear a bra. And make sure that your assets are covered so that they will not be distracting or slipping.
Please leave breasticles in, please.
We will rock you!
Sportsmanship. It's okay to be friends with people from other teams. In fact, it's a good thing to make friends with people from other teams. However, during forensics, it is a good time to be with your team. So it's okay to go and talk to people from other schools, but you can't be around them all day. Not only is it a little awkward if there's someone not from your school sitting at your table the entire time, but you really need to be with your team during the competition. It's also really important to support your team, even if they're your competition. Abby and I have gone up against each other all year and last year, but we're still really supportive of each other. So if she does well, I'm really happy about it, and I'm not mad if she does better than me, and the same goes both ways. Even though we're competing against each other, we're also rooting for each other. So it's really important to be supportive of your team and be rooting for them, even if they're doing better than you are.
Okay.
You should also be civil or nice to your competition. Even if there's someone who's loud and obnoxious or annoying, you still have to be nice to them. You can complain about them all the way down on the bus every single day when you're returning home from a competition, but while you are in front of them, you are going to be nice and polite no matter how annoying they're going to be. Even if...
It's fine. You can move the camera. Too.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. You need to be nice to your competitors, even if they're mean to you. For instance, I had a very jealous person in Sirius who heard me outside the room, and as I was walking away, said very rude comments. I wrongly reacted and insulted him back, and you should not do that, because no matter how good it feels in that moment, you don't feel very good about it later. So take the higher road, because we are better than them.
Do as I say, not as I do.
You will have to be around your team and your competitors every single Saturday, so don't stoop to the level that they bring to you. For example, my freshman year, this girl came out of the room and she went, "Good luck following that." And it was my very first competition, and I was so scared, and I never saw her again. But if it were my freshman year, I would not have gone up to her and said anything about it, because you are going to be seeing that person time and time again, especially if you're a freshman. You're going to be seeing them for the next 4 years. So it's really important not to stoop to their level, because causing any sort of conflict just doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't make you a better competitor, and it doesn't make them a worse competitor. It just raises tensions between people who are competing.
We will rock you.
Confidence. The first and probably most important thing here is confidence. You need to, whenever you're performing, you need to relax and just feel good about yourself, I guess. Don't psych yourself out, because then you're just gonna think that you did awful all the time, and then the judge will be able to tell, and you'll just not end up getting a good score. Make sure whenever you enter and exit the room, you have a smile on your face. It makes you look a lot better, and it just makes you feel good, and it makes the judge feel a little bit happier too. There's a fine line between confidence and cocky. And you don't want to cross that line, because if you cross into cockiness, it never ends well, and no one's going to want to be next to you at all or perform right after you.
Okay.
We will rock you.
When you go to a meet, you have to remember that it's an all-day event. So whatever you don't bring with you, you don't get to have all day. A few very appropriate things to bring to a meet could be a pillow and a blanket. As I said, it's long, you have to get up early in the morning, chances are you'll be tired between performances, so it's completely fine to just lay down with a pillow and a blanket and rest for a while. And you can also use them on the bus, because you can go very far and have some very uncomfortable bus rides. One thing I've always brought are fuzzy socks for between the rounds. Of course, the socks don't have to be fuzzy. But I find that it's much more comfortable to wait between rounds in my socks rather than in my performance shoes, which can get a little uncomfortable. One thing that people tend to bring but often not use is homework, because in all the extra time, you can bring your homework and have good intentions to do it, and then talk to your friends. Or you could be strange and actually do your homework in your extra time. That way you have more free time at home. And you can bring food. Something our team tries to do is we all bring communal food, which means that you can bring a pot of popcorn or something and set it on the table so everyone can eat it, and you can have some food as well. But you have to remember, you should also bring personal food for your lunch, especially if there's no restaurant or concession stands to eat at. That way you can have a personal sandwich or something to eat that no one else can take.
Keep in mind that if you bring personal food, you might want to take this extra step to hide it, because it can be hard to distinguish what is personal food and what is community food. Some people ask, other people don't. So just know that you're running the risk of someone eating your sandwich if you bring it.
We will rock you.
behave in the room and in the hallway is really, really, really important. You need to make sure that you are on time, especially if you have like a draw event. If you don't show up on time, you can get disqualified if you don't go there at the right time, if you don't draw. And if you need to have proper planning for your day. So like if you have a draw event at the very start of the round, then you need to make sure that you do that like immediately. And then you can go and perform your other stuff. And if your draw event is at the end of the day, then you need to make sure that you do your other event before you go and draw. Don't be cocky. Just don't do it. Because if you are cocky and you're like, ugh, I am gonna do so well this round, it's gonna be great, I'm gonna get first, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna go to state and we're gonna win state, and you're all like super happy, then everybody around you just feels awkward and they might not feel as confident, and it just is really rude and bad to do. Jesse Dieters has something to say about cockiness. Here we are.
Okay, there's this one guy that always brags about how well he did it impromptu. It's like, oh, I made my judge cry, I did amazing, I'm definitely gonna get first. And then he ends up getting last. It's annoying, and no matter how many times it happens, he still does it. He's even had a judge come up afterwards and say, don't tell people you made me cry when you did it.
Mrs. Enneking laughing in the background.
That's it.
Another example of not to be cocky. I have done very well in informative speaking. For quite a while, I believed that I would just get first or second at all of the meets, and then one meet, I got fourth, and did not believe that anymore.
And that puts an end to all cockiness. You need to be graceful from the time that you enter the room to the time that you leave the room. Because if you walk in and you're like, hi, and you're just like, you just start a random conversation with them, the judge isn't gonna like that, because you're wasting their time, and you're wasting your time, and you're wasting everybody else's time in that room. If you are going to complain about your judge, you need to, you cannot do it in the hallway. You cannot do it in the room. You cannot do it anywhere that you're anywhere near that judge. You need to be so careful with criticism or like complaints about your judge. If they were on their phone and they weren't paying attention to you, you can't like walk out to the room and be like, this judge is terrible, and like complain to everybody there, because the judge will likely hear about that and you will get a lower score. You can't, even if they're breaking the Keisha rules that state that they cannot be the timer, then you cannot complain about that to the judge. You cannot tell them what to do, because you will get a worse score. You need to complain to your coach, Mrs. Enneking. When you're waiting for your room, when you're waiting for a performer to be done, if you're gonna talk to people, you need to talk quietly, because most of the walls are very thin. So if you're out there and you're yelling and you're talking like super loud, then whoever is inside that room performing, you're probably disturbing them and really distracting them, and you can really screw them up. When you watch other competitors, if you go into a room and like a bunch of your competitors come in and watch you, like if people from your team broke in the same event or are in the same room as you, do not have them go into that room and watch you and then have them stand back up and you sit down and then like they perform. Because the people outside the room will probably not know who is performing and how long it's going to take. And it is so annoying whenever like one person is standing in front of you in line at finals, and then like 5 people just go in and you're like, okay, well they're just probably gonna watch, and then they all like perform, and it's so annoying. Jesse Dieters here with something to say about that.
At one of the meets, I don't know what meet it was, but I was waiting for finals and informative, and I was there second, and I ended up going last because people did that. They'd walk in, they'd stand there, they would watch, and you don't know when they'd come out. Well, then sometimes they came out, but then they came back and thought, oh, they were there, so they can just go back in. And then I ended up going last, and it took the entire time, so then I wasn't able to go and watch my other teammates.
And this concludes room and hallway behavior.
We will rock you.
One of the biggest things in forensics is respect. There's respect amongst competition, amongst your teammates, and literally everything. So if you are one of the younger novices, like a freshman, sophomore, or it's your first time doing forensics, you might have knowledge of what you are doing, but make sure to respect the veterans who have been here since their freshman year or have done it for longer than you have. I mean, giving them advice is okay, but doing it rudely is absolutely it's such a bad idea. Just don't do it.
Unacceptable?
Yes, it's unacceptable, and it makes the veterans kind of angry. Respecting your competition. If you go to a meet and you don't want to be like known as the person who's like has a bad attitude, let's put it that way, then you need to respect your competition. You just need to you can talk to them outside your room quietly, talk quietly, but making friends is okay, as Isabel touched on, but becoming buddy and ignoring your entire team for that friend is not a good idea. So respecting your competition, respecting your teammates, respecting people's things. I had somebody write in my prose book this year, my girlfriend broke up with me and moved to Louisiana and became a man. This was right before I went into my finals room, and if I hadn't been practicing out in the hallway, I probably would have went in and been like, the heck is this? Why is this in my book? So respect people's things. If it's not yours, don't touch it, okay? If it's not your food, don't eat it.
What if you talked about, if you're dating someone from the other team? I know that doesn't happen often, but...
So, if you are dating somebody from a different school, I can touch on this because I dated somebody from Leavenworth, but if you are dating somebody from a different school, you are in a school environment, no PDA, first of all. It's disgusting. Nobody wants to see that at a forensics meet. This is a school event, okay? You treat it like you are at school. And if you have a boyfriend, it's okay to go see them, especially if you don't see them often, but don't just ignore everybody and blow off your rounds and act like you don't care because your boyfriend's there. That's not the way to act. You have to treat the meet like it's every other meet, regardless if your boyfriend is there or not, boyfriend or girlfriend. Yeah. The award ceremony, when somebody gets first, we always stand up and clap and acknowledge that they have performed well all day. They got first, they did their absolute best. It is just common courtesy, stand up, clap, congratulate them, whatever. We also do that for whoever gets first overall at the meet, which is usually us because we're amazing. But when it's not us, we still have to stand up and clap and be courteous. Also, when anybody from our team makes it into finals, no matter what place they get, we stand up and clap because it's your teammate. Love and support them. They did amazing. They got to finals. Just be happy about it.
We will rock you! Now, for probably the most important part of an entire meet, keeping Mrs. E happy. First, she is a human being and she also needs food, so don't hog it all to yourself. She especially likes Cool Ranch Doritos. She is your coach, so you need to treat her as such. Be respectful. She probably knows more than you, so you really need to listen to her. And she's giving you suggestions for a reason, not just to be mean, so take them into consideration and make sure you use them. Make sure to follow her rules. They're meant to further the success of the team and yourself. If she sends out a mass text or an email, make sure to read it. She hates it whenever 3, 4, maybe the whole team asks her the same question over and over and over again. And competition is stressful for everyone, including Mrs. E. Make sure to give her a break. She is in charge of the whole team. And remember your notebooks, prose and poetry people. I've forgotten mine before. It's not a good scene. Make sure to bring the extempt and the impromptu totes. Those are going to help you a lot in those events, so you need to remember them. And if you don't break to finals, make sure you go watch something else. There is nothing Mrs. E hates more than during finals having a group of people sitting at the table talking. If you're not watching just to support your team, you can still better your piece by watching the finalists in one of your events, or even just watching something funny like IDA or humorous.